Tonight, amidst a nursing shortage and crowded ERs, we speak to one young nurse who already feels burnt out. Also, as eligibility for COVID-19 boosters expands, the province's chief medical health officer encourages people to get their shots in time for back to school. Plus, food, fireworks, and fun to cure a case of the Mondays.
This is CBC Saskatchewan News.
It is Monday, August 15th, and the CBC Saskatchewan News starts right now. Thanks for joining us. Sam is away this week. A registered nurse is speaking out about burnout and overcapacity at a Saskatchewan hospital. And while she's only been a nurse for a short time, she says she feels defeated by the collapsing health system. Yasmin Khanea brings us more.
You don't get a break. You have to run for 12 hours straight doing one thing after another.
It's been 8 months since Jacey-Lynn Winketer became a registered nurse. The 22-year-old says she never imagined how severe the nursing shortage would be working in the emergency room at the Royal University Hospital in Saskatoon. She clocked 290 hours in May. That's more than 72 hours a week.
At the end of that month, I was like, okay, I can't keep doing this anymore. I'm young, but I can't work that much. I will actually end up killing myself if I do that.
Winketer says the ER is over capacity every day. The waiting room has space for about 20 people, but she says typically 40 to 50 patients are needing care.
The patient load is so high, and it seems like the acuity of care, people are sick and they're really sick, and we have so many sick people to care for.
Winketer says there are not enough hands or room for them. The worst she's seen?
One day we had a total of 120 patients in the department. They didn't even have a code bed open. There was a patient coding stuck on an ambulance stretcher in the ambulance bay because there was no bed for them.
That's on top of paramedics lining the halls waiting to offload patients, nurses treating people in hallways, and a Stars Air ambulance stuck waiting an hour for a bed for their patient.
The worst case scenario that could ultimately happen through all of this is that someone could pass away because they haven't had timely access to care due to the nursing crisis.
The Saskatchewan Union of Nurses collected data this spring. It shows 83% of members reported vacant positions in their units. That's more than doubled since last year. The union wants the government to admit there's a problem and work with nurses on solutions. Jacey-Lynn Winketer says she still loves her job and being in the ER, but she says she'll take fewer overtime shifts in the hopes that working conditions will improve soon. Yasmin Khanea, CBC News, Saskatoon.
Saskatchewan's COVID-19 booster shot program is back open. People over 50 were already eligible to receive their fourth COVID-19 vaccination, but the program has now expanded to include those between 18 and 49 as well. Saskatchewan's chief medical health officer says it's a good time for more people to get boosted.
If you live with people at high risk or work in healthcare, long-term care, getting that second booster will be helpful, as well as people going back to work or school after the summer. So I think in that context, there was some interest in getting the second dose. So I think it's really good.
Shahab says there should be more than enough of the fourth booster shots to go around. He also recommends people who still need to get their third shot to go get one. Right now, that's only about half the vaccinated population. Children should also be vaccinated as they get ready to head back to class.
There's still a recommendation to get fully vaccinated for children who are school age. Our vaccine uptake 12 and older is better. And of course, now we have vaccine available, 6 months to 4 years. So I think the vaccine side for children, the uptake has been lower, but I would still recommend that that's really important to reduce transmission when we go back to school and in daycares. Beyond that, I think at this point, really it's up to parents and children if they feel more comfortable wearing a mask. And then in the fall, we do expect, because we've learned a lot from the winter season in Australia, for example, that just is coming out of their winter season in the southern hemisphere. So they've seen, with no public health measures, they've seen all the respiratory viruses come back. So influenza, other coughs and colds, COVID. We saw a bit of that, in the late summer, late spring as well. So we do expect, the usual coughs and colds going around, including COVID. So if there's, obviously if there's more transmission in schools, schools do notify if there's a more than 10% absenteeism. So that may be an opportunity for more mask use. But really it will, at this point, it just remains a recommendation for parents and children to choose and staff to choose.
And COVID-19 viral loads have been increasing week after week for the last month in our province. That's according to researchers who monitor COVID-19 levels in wastewater. That means we are likely in the midst of a seventh wave. The data comes from Saskatoon, Prince Albert, and North Battleford. Overall, researchers say the risk is still moderate, but the increase could be a sign of more hospitalizations and even COVID-related ICU visits in the coming weeks. In Regina, viral loads have decreased slightly, continuing a downward trend, but they still remain at a high level, according to researchers. A sad ending tonight to a search for a missing 74-year-old woman near Smeaton. Lois Chartrand got lost 11 days ago while picking mushrooms with a friend. RCMP have now confirmed Chartrand's body was found Sunday. Police and volunteers had been involved in a massive search, including drones, helicopters, and a number of people on foot. Chartrand and her husband have foraged for wild mushrooms, fiddleheads, and berries as an income source for years, but the terrain is very challenging with thick bush, swamp, and muskeg. And search and rescue volunteers have had a busy summer. The Saskatoon Search and Rescue Group logged more than 500 hours last month. That's about 10 full days of searching. The group was activated 5 times in July in Saskatoon and beyond. The searchers helped in the case of Dawn Dumont Walker, who is alleged to have faked her own disappearance and death. They were also called out to search for a missing person in Sandy Lake and helped with the 81-day quest to find 5-year-old Frank Young on the Red Earth Cree Nation. 2 severe weekend thunderstorms cut a wide swath of damage across areas east of Saskatoon overnight. Images on social media showed Kelvington was hit hard with grain bins torn apart and tipped over, and the roof of a co-op gas station destroyed. Tennis ball-sized hail was reported in Barrier Lake, punching holes through windshields, siding, and even the reinforced plastic covering the dock at the local resort. And near Priestville, a family was hit hard when nearly a quarter of its chicken coops were ruined.
Out of these 32 chicken shelters, I think there were 8 or 9 that were flipped right over and smashed, of course, leaving the chickens exposed and crushed and stuff too. So that was pretty devastating.
Meyer says on the bright side, her family and friends from the community came out immediately to help them chase down loose birds and salvage what was left. She says farmers have to expect the unexpected, but she was shocked at the level of damage. Saskatoon firefighters were busy this morning trying to put out 2 house fires. Flames were seen at the back of this house around 3:30 this morning in the Pleasant Hill neighborhood. The blaze started on the deck, but there's still no word on how it began. One person was able to get out safely, but 2 dogs inside did not survive. And a few hours later, another house fire in the Mayfair neighborhood caused major issues for crews. Power lines and a Sask Energy gas line were caught up in the flames. That resulted in a natural gas leak in the area for several hours. Officials say one elderly man was treated for smoke inhalation and hospitalized. The federal government is putting nearly $4 million into our province's tourism industry. Randy Boissonneau, the federal tourism minister, made the announcement at Wanuskewin Heritage Park today near Saskatoon. He says $3.7 million will go into 19 provincial tourism projects. The money will support art galleries, museums, festivals, and other outdoor experiences for people to enjoy. Officials hope the cash injection will highlight the prairies as a world-class tourist destination, particularly around Indigenous tourism.
When people come from around the world, when Americans come, they want an experience on the land, and they want to meet with elders. They want to understand, the history of Canada back to pre-settler time. And so our job as a government is to work with our Indigenous partners across the country to get that work done. And in Budget 22, there's a $20 million fund that's been called the Indigenous Tourism Fund. So we're just working out the mechanics of how that money is going to get into the hands of Indigenous tourism operators.
It's hoped the money, which comes from the Tourism Relief Fund, will help the province bounce back after 2 years of COVID uncertainty. It will also focus heavily on accessible and sustainable tourism initiatives. Well, the day started off cloudy and foggy for some of us, but the sun eventually won the battle and gave us a nice hot day. A perfect day to tend to the garden like these green thumb growers in South Regina. But the question is, will the weather hold up to provide a bountiful harvest? Well, John Sauter has your full forecast when we come back. Welcome back. A UN chartered ship loaded with grain has left Ukraine, destined for Africa. It's the first such voyage since Ukraine and Russia agreed to restart Black Sea grain deliveries despite the ongoing war. Abby Kugadasan has more.
23,000 tons of wheat for Ethiopia. That's what's aboard this UN chartered vessel, Brave Commander. It's the first aid ship leaving Ukraine's ports since the grain agreement was signed last month. The deal has created a so-called grain corridor for these vessels to safely leave the war zone. Russia has promised not to attack when these cargo ships are in transport, and Ukraine has agreed to guide these ships out of heavily mined waters. And ships have been trickling out of Ukraine, carrying much needed food to destinations like Turkey and Lebanon. Ukraine's infrastructure minister Oleksandr Kubrikov says government officials are hoping for a lot more.
I hope that volumes, number of vessels will be increased in nearest weeks, and I hope that as a result of the initiative in September, we will reach almost volumes which we had before the war.
Like the other ships, this one will be inspected in Turkish waters before sailing to Djibouti, a small country that shares a border with Ethiopia. The shipment will be unloaded there before being transferred by the World Food Programme to Ethiopia. The food is desperately needed there. The UN believes Ethiopia is at risk of starvation. The agency has said that before the war, it relied on both Russia and Ukraine for 3/4 of the wheat it provided to Ethiopia. And World Food Programme's Marianne Ward highlighted Ukraine's importance in feeding people in various countries.
WFP purchased 880,000 metric tons, and we moved that food to Somalia, Yemen, Ethiopia, Sudan. Big message for us is that the world needs the food of Ukraine.
The invasion of Ukraine has exacerbated an already devastating global food crisis that has been pushing millions of people towards hunger. The crisis is linked to various factors like droughts in crop-producing countries, other regional conflicts, and a supply chain issue tied to the pandemic. Ethiopia will receive this next Ukrainian shipment. The UN also believes more than 20 million people in the country are in need of food assistance. The hope is more shipments from Ukraine, because millions of lives depend on it. Abby Kwodasin, CBC News, London.
This weather update is brought to you by Capital GMC Buick Cadillac, making back to busy easy.
Well, a sunny day for most of us this afternoon in Saskatchewan. Meteorologist John Sauter joins us now. And John, we've been sunny, but we've really been sweltering lately too.
The heat continues all across Saskatchewan today, and it doesn't look like there's a whole lot of change in that in the coming days. You look at the satellite imagery here today, and boy, not a lot of relief as far as cloud is concerned. We are seeing some storms, though, and a severe thunderstorm watch was issued in the southeast through these storms earlier today, and some warnings up around the Yorkton area. So we have seen some of that energy that I'm expecting through the evening hours, even in the Regina area, still a chance as we head into the evening and through the afternoon to the east of La Ronge. We've seen these clouds spitting out some rain and some thunderstorms. That's moving into northern Manitoba tonight. And then we have more energy up in the northwest that will affect areas like Uranium City as we head into the night tonight. Hot August. Now, how hot has it been? Well, I took southwest Saskatchewan as an example, and more specifically Swift Current. Warmest day was August 8th, a week ago, at 34 degrees Celsius. 13 of the 15 days so far in August, so that includes today, have been 27 degrees or warmer. And you look at the forecast over the next 7 days, and all the daytime highs are between 28 and 33. That's what I mean by it's going to continue. There's not much relief in sight. You look at Futurecast, and tomorrow's another sunny day here. Central parts of the province on Tuesday morning will see a little bit of cloud cover, maybe an isolated shower, but it's a sunny afternoon, and then a bit of a change on Tuesday into the evening hours and on into Wednesday morning. So Wednesday, we start to see some showers and storms in central parts of the province, and all of this wraps down to the southeast on into the evening hours, including Regina and Saskatoon by Wednesday afternoon, and then certainly on into the evening hours. So expect more storm activity later in the day on Wednesday, and we could see some on Tuesday as well. Tonight, though, just a chance of a storm here in the southeast. Southwest, not so much, and temperatures are fairly comfortable for overnight numbers. So nice to see after the hot days that the temperatures are dropping on into the evening hours. And then we have that chance of an evening shower or storm in the northwest in Uranium City at 14 degrees. Tomorrow, lots of sunshine, lots of heat, 29 in Laurens, 25 farther north. We're looking at 33 in Swift Current and in Saskatoon. Regina looking at 30 degrees tomorrow, and then 29 to 33 through the rest of the southeast. In the long range for areas like Regina, we've got some storms in the mix for Tuesday, or Wednesday, I should say. Tuesday night into Wednesday, really, the way that plays out. And then very dry and warm weather going forward. Right through the weekend, we're looking at upper 20s, maybe even a 30 degree in there. Same with Saskatoon. We've got the unstable day on Wednesday, and then a sunny 29 on Thursday, and right through the weekend, it is going to be sunny and hot in Saskatoon.
Kabul fell to the Taliban a year ago today, putting the Islamic fundamentalist group back in charge of Afghanistan after a 20-year war. As Marina von Stackelberg tells us, Canadian military veterans are still working to get thousands of Afghans to safety here.
1 year ago, this was the scene at the airport in Kabul. Afghans desperate to escape crowd the tarmac and grasp at the sides of a U.S. Air Force plane, some falling to their deaths. American troops and their allies, including the Canadian military, pulled out of Afghanistan.
The Afghan flag being taken down.
The Taliban had already established power in other parts of the country. It swiftly moved in to take Kabul and control of the country, ending a 20-year war.
That's me right there.
Brian McDonald heads up a group of veterans and former interpreters working since then to bring Afghans to Canada.
We watched that terrible situation unfold. We served in Afghanistan with these interpreters, with many of these people that were trying to help. And, when we were unable to get them out a year ago, it was devastating. But since then, we've come together, we've doubled down, and we've been able to get 3,000 people out.
But it's a slow and dangerous process to get the passports needed to leave.
These people that have helped Canada now have to stand up and go to an office that's controlled by the Taliban and give their name and address and the dates of birth of their children.
This June, Pakistan agreed to a 2-month window. It would let Afghan refugees already approved to come to Canada across its borders without a passport or visa. But so far, few have been able to make the journey.
We were hoping it would be thousands, and it ended up being dozens. We're dealing with the Afghan-Pakistani border, and it's a very wild place, and so messages aren't always clearly communicated, but we believe the window may still be open.
To date, the government says more than 17,000 Afghan refugees have made it safely to Canada. But it's been criticized for abandoning Afghans who assisted Canada in the NATO-led effort. Another 18,000 refugees are still waiting.
I think we can hold our heads up high when we think about our response compared to that of our allies. There's a lot more work to do.
Last month, Canada stopped accepting new applications for its special immigration program for Afghan refugees who helped Canada during the war. McDonald hopes that will change.
We are still grinding away every day, moving people out of Afghanistan. And we're just going to keep doing that until we get as many people out as we possibly can.
Marina von Stackelberg, CBC News, Ottawa.
Well, Saskatchewan's canola fields make stunning photo backgrounds in the summertime. And next door in Manitoba, people love posing for pictures in front of rows of sunflowers. And one enterprising farmer is making the eye-popping selfies even easier while he helps others. Emily Brass explains.
Wow, look at this. This would be a great picture. Yeah.
This explosion of yellow is right in the middle of southern Manitoba.
It's great fun. It's a great thing to do with the grandkids and, nice day. Good drive. It's perfect.
That makes fields like this a great spot to snap a selfie, but that can mean trampled crops. Not all farmers are as welcoming as Dean Taves.
Part of the idea also came from some of the tension that comes with farmers and city people when they come out to the field. They want to see the sunflowers, but it's essentially trespassing unless they have permission. And so we thought, what if we gave people permission to come and enjoy themselves in the field?
It was really nice that there's a place that welcome us onto their property to take their photos, and I could post on Instagram and not get in trouble down that way. Yeah.
Taves made trails for people to walk around and leave a donation. That money and proceeds from the crop go to Canadian Food Grains Bank, which helps feed people around the world.
The Taves family opened up the sunflower field pretty spontaneously last year to guests. They still managed to raise $2,000 in cash donations and made another $20,000 off the sunflower crop. And this year, they expect those numbers to grow.
So you get one Instagrammer with a lot of followers, and then all of a sudden there's lots of Instagrammers coming out to do copycat pictures.
One more, 1, 2.
We would like to help and donate something for the community.
For Taves, there's another benefit, introducing city people to farming.
As time goes on, as people are more separated from agriculture, it's just a pleasure to have people enjoy what we do.
All the more reason to smile for the camera. Emily Brass, CBC News, McGregor, Manitoba.
It is going to be warm right through the evening here in Regina. 17 degrees, clear skies, light winds, and still very mild in the morning. We're looking at temps close to 30 tomorrow afternoon, but by 9 in the morning, you're already at 22 degrees. Not a lot of wind. Good bike riding day. South winds only at 10 to 15, and lots of sunshine to start your Tuesday morning. Much the same in Saskatoon. Midnight tonight, the temperature will be 19. South winds at 10 under clear skies, and a very bright start to Tuesday. Lots of sunshine. 9 o'clock temperature in the morning at 24 degrees with a southeast wind at 15 to 20.
A nice morning ahead. Thanks very much, John. And before we go tonight, some fun was had by all in Regina's Wascana Park this afternoon. Live music, food, and activities for the young and young at heart took place outside of Bar Willow Eatery as part of the first ever Monday Fun Day. It's a partnership between Bar Willow and the Wascana Winter Festival, and it's billed as a midway to winter celebration when the Wascana Winter Festival usually happens. There were also horse-drawn wagon rides to celebrate the Queen's Platinum Jubilee. The Jubilee Fund provided money to put on the event. And one of the event organizers says it's also a chance for people to gather together in the jewel of the Queen City.
We're lucky enough to be partners with the Wascana Winter Festival, and due to COVID, there was a certain amount of funding left over from Heritage Canada to sort of organize these types of activities, more so in the winter during that event, but because of the cold and the COVID and all those things that occurred in the last couple of years, they weren't able to happen. So just an opportunity to get people in the park, so we tried to create a really fun experience and partnered up with the festival again, and hopefully everybody have a chance to come out and try it.
And activities continue through the evening. The event wraps up with a fireworks display at about 9:30 from Willow Island. And that is it for us tonight. For news anytime, head to cbc.ca/sask or subscribe to our YouTube channel. Glenn Reed and John Sauter are back at 11. Thanks for watching and have a great night.